Like I'm not a mean, angry guy, but I do have this kind of like aggressive, aggro thing bouncing inside of me all the time that does have a little bit of anger. That's just how I was raised and the people I was raised around, or the lack of their parenting. Shout out to my parents. But I just think like that anger, that it kind of fuels the goofy side of me too. I'm doing this whole big chunk on death. I have to talk about some of this stuff that's so fucked up that happened to me or has happened in my life. This is the only way for me to kind of therapeutically get through it, I guess. Otherwise, it just really gets me sad. So it's either me get depressed or I talk about it, and I try to mesh this world of like anger and aggression with goofy, crazy, absurd, hey, it's just a joke, you know? But I'm quick to go dark. Like it's what I love.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome live from the Montreal Just for Laughs Festival.
That's right.
So excited. I wanted to have this guy on a couple of years ago when I was here, and I couldn't get it together, and I'm so honored that he's here now. Please welcome Andrew Santino.
That's me, baby. I didn't want to do it a couple years ago with you. I said, no way, I would never. I said, not a chance in the world. No, we tried to get it together. It didn't work out, and the schedules get so crazy here. I feel like every time I come here, I say yes to a lot of things, and I want to do half of them. So,
and I'm one of the ones you don't want to do.
No, this is the one I do want to do. I was excited to come up here. I got prepped and primed. Do I look cute?
You look really good.
I got cute.
You're a very good-looking redheaded man, which is very unusual in the world.
There's like 4 of us. I think it's me, Robert Redford, and the others are dead. no others. Actually, it's funny because there's so many beautiful redheaded women in the business. Like there's so many. But there's literally no good-looking redheaded guys at all. I'm not saying I'm good-looking. I'm saying better than most.
No, you are good-looking.
When I see those guys, I'm like, dude, I'm a supermodel compared to these men.
Are you attracted to redheads?
I've never dated a redheaded girl. I've slept with one redheaded girl when I was in college because it's kind of against the law. It's like redheaded law. We're not allowed to sleep together. It's really weird. Like we don't like it. We do this weird thing where we're like really, like off-put by each other, and so we just don't. There is no like. I can't explain it. Like we just kind of inherently don't have any attraction to one another. We like dislike that each other's out in the same room. Do you know what I mean?
Do you like being a 2%er?
Yeah, I do actually. It's wonderful. I'm the real minority in America. All these other people talk about being minorities. I'm the true last great dinosaur. I think we're the smallest population of people on Earth. No one's smaller than us.
2%.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I know all my Jewish friends are like, there's so less of us, and it's like, we're the real minority.
Unless there's a Holocaust for redheads.
Yeah, there was actually. Do you not know about this?
No,
it's not true. I was gonna. The potato famine was the Holocaust for redheaded people, and then it all worked out. Actually, we are going away. So,
why do you think it is that there are? I mean, from the traditional standpoint, because you even made a joke about it, why there are so few good-looking redheaded men, but there's gorgeous redheaded women. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. You know what's so funny? There's a girl on Instagram that I was looking at the other day. She's a redheaded girl, and I was like, I'm supposed to be against this. Like, I shouldn't be into this girl because she has red hair. But she was so beautiful. I think the redheaded dude. I think the reason that redheaded people in general are quite unattractive is it's a mutant gene, right? So you have a mutated gene.
Now that's something I know. There's a lot of jokes here, but for the audience, I think a lot of them don't know that the redheaded gene is a mutated gene. So could you explain that to the audience?
This is technically it's not supposed to happen. Like genetically, it's a complete accident, right? And then you hear all this stuff when people are like, "Oh, it's recessive," or "Does your mom have it is your dad's side? Who's redheaded?" I was asking a doctor friend one time. That's so funny. I asked a doctor buddy, and he told me.
Was he wearing a glove at the time?
He always wears the smock, smock, all around. And now he works at Arby's. No, he was telling me that it's totally random and on accident. Like there is no that thing's a lie. Where it's like you have a better percentage chance if the mother's side has red hair or whatever. It's like the odds are increased a little bit better depending on who's in your background of who has red hair. But for the most part. It's the genetic dice, man. You're rolling the dice. You have better odds if it's in your family somewhere, of course, but doesn't mean you're going to get it. My mother's one of 10 kids. I have 27. I don't even know. Too many cousins, and there's like 2 of us with red hair. That's it. I'm like the one. The other one doesn't even really have. It's like auburn. It's like I'm the only one that has orange hair, like truly orange.
When you talk about odds, and I hate to make a weird transition here, but
No, do it. Let's get off the redheaded stuff.
But you talk about odds. I mean, the first time I met you, do you remember where it was?
Let me think. It wasn't with. Was it Gold? Did I meet you through Goldberg?
Yes.
Yes.
I met you. You were in a cubicle answering phones.
Yes.
For a guy who walked through the hallways, and literally as he walked by, you felt like your hopes and dreams were crashing by, because he had like that thing where he walked by and the hair on the back of your neck stood up. You wondered, is he coming by to fire me? Am I? The guy never let you know where you stand, but like a parent away from you, when the doors closed, I'd be meeting with him and the doors would close. And that's a bad, sound effect. And he would, and we'd say, "Have you met Santino?"
Yeah.
I said, "Santino? What? I don't know." Andrew said, "You got to meet this guy. He's brilliant. He's talented. He's working the phones now for me, but this kid's gonna be a big star."
Yeah. Yeah, we did it. I did almost everything for those guys, man. When that whole thing.
Jason Goldberg, who produced and created Punk'd with Ashton Kutcher.
When I actually the story, as the story goes, the craziest part about the whole thing was my roommate was dating a girl who now I won't say names, but she does very well in the business. Like she does extremely well. And at the time,
on which side of the camera?
Not on behind it, producer. And at the time, she was working as an assistant to this manager. This manager was had sold a show to Comedy Central with this guy named Al Shear, who did the first season of Punk'd. And they sold this show for Comedy Central. They couldn't find a writer. And Comedy Central gave them this list of people they loved, and they didn't like any of them. And she says, this guy I'm dating lives with this really funny comedian. You should try him. He's young. He'd probably be cheap. Like, he has almost no experience. Try him. So I got a phone call to meet Jason. And he was like, "Hey, you need to come in tomorrow morning with like 10 bits written by like 8 a.m. Go write me funny like sketches or sketch pranks for this guy. It's like an amalgamation of punked and sketch and da-da-da-da." And so I stayed up all night long, and I wrote all these bits. I brought in the next day. Half of them were absolute trash, and half were kind of funny. And he was like, "Oh, I like you. What are you up to right now?" I was like, "Nothing." You know what I mean? I have nothing going on. He was like, "You should come help me with this show." So that was like my first introduction with him, and I just stuck around with them. I just did whatever they wanted me to do, working on so many different things until finally we did Punk'd again.
Now, you're working behind the scenes, doing anything they want you to do.
Yeah, we're doing everything. It's like a gopher.
You were writing things, and you were getting coffee for people.
Yeah, we did. I did literally everything. I was like that office was kind of like, it was like a chaotic think tank of nonsense. Like there was like obvious rankings, but mine, I was lost in the abyss of like, there was no title. I got a little baby paycheck, and I was just there for help. It was the ambiguity was kind of nice though, because I didn't really care. I was like, I just want to figure all this out, and then we'll find out where I land.
Success, it always comes in different ways, and so. Like, I've been around a lot of producers. I've been around a lot of productions. I've seen how different productions work.
Yeah.
Jason Goldberg is a guy who I would like to think he's like a tortured genius or a tortured soul of some nature, because there doesn't seem to ever be any structure whatsoever to anything. The only structure that it is this crazy blueprint in his brain that he can't show fully to anybody. So it comes out in waves where he's like, "Okay, Andrew, this is what I've got to do. This is what's happening here, whatever." And you're like, "Okay," and you're like, "Okay, is this written down somewhere?" No,
yeah.
You
have to do it.
And so, but. He's an amazing guy, and the things that he touches are successful.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, that was my introduction to the business for real. Like, that was my, and oddly enough, that was so many stand-ups introduction to the business. I mean, Whitney was on.
Whitney Cummings did the rock thing where the trailer exploded. I remember I was managing her at the time.
There was a ton of comics that came through that that are alumni of that show. And it's kind of weird. It was just like, it was really happenstance for me. That was never something that I was like setting out to do. I just wanted to do stand up. And then that kind of just.
But you weren't doing stand up when you were in the pit, were you?
Well, I was doing stand up at night. Yeah, I mean, I was open micing and stuff.
Yeah,
I was doing like baby shows and I wasn't by any means. I wasn't really doing anything. I mean, I was at that time. You're just scrounging. Also, at that time, the Comedy Store wasn't the Comedy Store.
Well, you were also. Well, I want to talk about it too, but you were doing the door at the Comedy Store. Weren't you one of the doorman?
No,
thing?
You know what's so funny is I never actually got the job to work at the store. I wanted to work at the store.
I thought I saw you one time with a Comedy Store T-shirt next to the door.
Well, I hung out every night. I mean, I hung out every single night. I wear Comedy Store T-shirts still today. But I just I love that place. But it was what people know of the Comedy Store today is not what it was in 2007 and 8. It was remarkably different.
Yeah, 2007 and 8 for the audience. Everything's cyclical in this crazy. If you're watching television shows, it's normally not cyclical because when a television show declines, it gets canceled and you never see it again.
Right. I've been on a bunch of those.
But when a comedy establishment declines, there's ups and downs in towns.
Yeah.
And certain comedy clubs go through resurrections. When Dane Cook was at the Laugh Factory every night, the Laugh Factory was the place to be.
Oh yeah.
And and that place was always packed, and it felt like he was like an owner of the place because it was like
it was his club.
He didn't go anywhere else, and that was it. At the Improv, there were times when in the past 15 years where Drew Carey and people like that had their own shows that they would do. And then you'd go there and it'd be like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And the Comedy Store, obviously the heyday of the Comedy Store was, 35 years ago or whatever. But during the time, it was a dark time at the Comedy Store you're talking about because Mitzi was sort of losing her attention to the club, and the Sons were making the transition, really didn't know how to handle it. They had a guy booking it named Tommy, who was like a son to Mitzi, and he had his way of doing things, but he wasn't, if he didn't create a good relationship, it was like, okay, you can leave, it's okay, I got more people to back up. But it was a time when the internet was coming into play in a big way, and a lot of people didn't understand what you had to do to make something special.
Yeah.
And so this is the amazing thing about the Comedy Store, and I've shared this with a couple of people, and I'll share it with you. It's so crazy. Like when you were meeting with Jason and you're in the office, you're doing everything for him, and then one day he says, tell me a story. Or whatever it is. Tell me something about yourself, and then you tell a great story, and he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to use you on this season of Punk'd.
Right.
And you want to say to him, your dark side wants to say to him, Jason, I don't know how to tell you this, but I've never done that before.
Yeah.
I've never been in front of a camera.
It's not my thing.
It's not what I don't even know how to. But you don't say that. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this, and this is my big
you say
break.
yes. You always say yes. Yeah, sure.
So the Comedy Store, here they're at the darkest place. They're at the place where it's like at the lowest point in time in that situation.
Yeah.
They had a guy working there for 10 years who knew every in and out of what the comedians did or whatever. And so they want to go to the next level, and they hire a guy, Adam, who never booked a show, really, or a comedy club, or any semblance of something like that.
He was working out in Phoenix, right? Didn't he? Was working at the Improv in Phoenix? Yeah. But talent-wise, I think that was his first talent coordinator job.
Yeah, so never did that before.
Right.
And goes in, and he understands, okay, this job is about relationships. Let me figure out the people who aren't coming here anymore. And these people have a great following too. If I bring them back, the rest will follow.
Right.
And brought back Rogan and a bunch of the other people. And here's a guy who never did it before.
Right.
And now the club is like insane. You go there, all 3 rooms are operating. But it's cyclical, and we all know this, and we all know that that's not going to last forever. And they're going to be like the second club and the third club, and then another club's going to start doing better, and that's the way it works.
It's always going to be that way. It's always going to keep changing. I mean, I like the comedy bubble that's happening now. The comedy, surge, whatever you want to call it. It's incredible. I'm excited about it. But there is also that looming feeling in every comic's head that's like, this is getting big. Is this going to keep going like this? How can you sustain it? That's the biggest worry I think that all comics think about. Netflix giving $70 million to Eddie, $150 million for Rock and Chappelle's specials. And it's like, at some point, you're like, what this is becoming so big. Is it getting bigger than itself? Is comedy right now has become bigger than I've ever seen it when I've been alive, but it's also getting so big that it's like meta now. Like comedy is on the tip of everybody's tongue, and stand-up is seemingly the thing that like everybody is in love with again. And I think it's a great thing, but I'm not gonna lie that I'm fucking worried that I'm like, this. It's like almost so popular, it's crazy. And what podcast has done for stand-up is incredible. Like I never thought that it would ever be like that you could cultivate an entire audience based on a podcast who really want to see you live.
Look at Bert Kreischer. If Bert Kreischer were sitting here, he wouldn't
fit on this couch, but go ahead.
He would say, Barry, can't book a television job, can't book a film job. I don't have a radio gig. I have a podcast, and I sell out everywhere.
He sells out everywhere he goes. Yeah. I mean, Rogan was kind of the proponent for him to stop doing television. Because I think he had told Joe that he was miserable, and Rogan was like, get off of that travel thing. He was like, yeah, but I got family to feed. He's like, focus solely on what you're the best at. And he's like, you're the best at entertaining on a podcast and doing stand-up. He's like, this other thing may pay you good money, but it's not what you're the best at. And that's, not verbatim, obviously, but in so many words. And I think he heeded the advice. And when Bert went in full bore to the podcast and to the community, it changed everything for him. Like, I think that was when he really dove in, it became obvious that was his road. And he was so good at podcasts because storytelling is his nature anyway, and him and Segura, his secret lover, they're so good together. Now they have a show. It's just kind of like that world has, it's really shown that like comedy fans are, they're there. They just need to be reached. You know what I mean? Like for a long time, it's like go see someone live or see them maybe on TV. But now it's like you can get a piece of them every week or every other day, however long. Rogan does one every hour. It feels like it's like. But now you can really have a reach to these people again and be connected to them. I think it's incredible. I've cultivated a whole new audience from doing my podcast, and it's been unbelievable because you're like, oh shit, these fans are out there. They just don't really have access to you as a comedian unless they see you do television or you come to their town. But so now with this, it bridges that gap. It's so much easier for them to be like, I can listen to you every Thursday, and they thank you for it. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
You always had this energy about you. I hope you don't mind me talking about
I'm not
this.
on cocaine. Everybody asks. No, I don't mind you asking. Go, whatever it is.
You kind of like the darkness.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And in this world of comedy, there's normally darkness or light.
Mm-hmm.
But you're the kind of guy who I feel like has this like, the good and evil are like battling it out inside you.
100%.
And that's what makes you great.
Yeah, I think I've always struggled with like I am naturally like we talked. I was on Norton's show yesterday, and they were talking about Sam was like
Jim Norton and Sam Roberts.
Yeah, and Sam Roberts. And Sam was like, you kind of have this natural angry energy to you. But like when you know me, I'm not an angry guy. Like I'm not a mean, angry guy, but I do have this kind of like aggressive, aggro thing bouncing inside of me all the time that does have a little bit of anger. And that's got to deal. That's just how, how I was raised and the people I was raised around, or the lack of their parenting. Shout out to my parents. But I just think like that anger that it kind of fuels the goofy side of me too. So yes, I do think there's a big duality in my, like I'm doing this whole big chunk on death, and it's just so it's funny because it's really dark, but it's true and honest, and it's what I've been thinking about lately. And like I'm wearing a Brody shirt, and I was talking about suicide in the bit.
Brody Stevens,
yeah, who's no longer with us, and it's just like I feel like I have to touch on the things that are pretty uncomfortable because it's the only way that I like to talk about them. I was like, I have to talk about some of this stuff that's so fucked up that happened to me or has happened in my life. This is the only way for me to kind of therapeutically get through it, I guess. Otherwise, it just really gets me sad. So it's either me get depressed or I talk about it, and I try to mesh this world of like anger and aggression with goofy, crazy, absurd, hey, it's just a joke, But I'm quick to go dark. Like it's what I love. Like dark humor is probably my favorite. Comparatively, there's the people that I tend to gravitate towards always have a dark, twisted sense of humor. I've always loved that. I can't explain why. It was just like it was wrong, but it was right type of thing,
What created the darkness inside you? If you had to pinpoint one thing,
probably. I mean, like honestly, a therapist would tell you it's probably because my father. So my dad was never around. I had a wonderful stepfather who came into my life, but my dad was in drugs. He went to jail a bunch. And so like that's what I knew of my father's chaotic side of the family. So it created this kind of little baby monster inside of me, I saw a lot of chaos from his side of the family. And then my mom's side of the family was the polar opposite. So I had this like good balance. That duality you're talking about came from those worlds. I was interested in who he was and the way he was and why he was the way he was and why he wasn't that great of a father when I was a kid. So I guess it kind of fueled this like my scope of the world kind of comes from that. That's why I have a lot of like tough it out, shut the fuck up, big deal, so what, too bad inside of me, because it's like you just have to figure it out. My mother figured it out when she was a single mother, not knowing how she was going to get through. And so, I think that fuels you as a kid. Whether you know it or not, you're imposing that on your child of like, well, you just have to do it. Like I've always said, like my mom isn't cold, but she's tough, like she has love. She's so loving, but she's tough. Like my mom is a tough ass bitch. Like there isn't one piece of my mom that's like push over, roll over. You know what I mean? So that I took a lot of that fuel from what I saw as a kid. And it gave me this perspective on the world that, for some reason people like sometimes. So like if I was going to pinpoint it, I would say like the relationship or the lack thereof that my biological father and my mother had was kind of what made me see the world the way I see the world, for good or bad, But, from my standpoint, the humor comes from laughing at the things that you can't control. My grandfather my grandfather was a firefighter. He raised 10 kids. You know what I mean? On a firefighter salary. It's like they didn't have any money. And so everything was a joke to my grandfather. He was my influence to get into comedy. He was one of the funniest people I've ever seen in my life. And he was brash. Like sometimes he would make fun of Rich because he was so poor. It'd be like, yeah, why, fancy restaurants are dark because they don't want you to see the food. It's not that good. It's not as good as you think it is. It was like that kind of mentality that I always thought was like really endearing. He was like the guy's guy, like the man's man, Like he always had this kind of dark, twisted sense of the world because, I think you have to when you come from a generation that doesn't have anything. Like he would see an overweight guy and rudely he would say like under his breath to us, he'd be like, oh, he's no stranger to a fork. It's just like stuff like that. It was mean, but it was funny because it was just real. And he wasn't he wasn't trying to hurt people's feelings, but he would say it to us. And that's I think that's where a lot of that comes from for me. Of like, it's just a joke. It's small and it's not meant to hurt anybody. It's just, we have to joke about these things. So that's probably where it comes from. Is like the chaos of my family growing up,
So every comedian has their circle of people
sure.
They hang with, they text, they talk, they look forward to hanging around. what's the common denominator about your pack?
We're on this big text chain, and if it got out, if it got out, it would bury all of us.
The stuff you say on the chain.
It's so f***ed up. It's so inappropriate and f***ed up. That's the common denominator, that all of us are f***ed up. We all have we have the same kind of humor, whether you see it on stage or not, but in that text, we all are on the same page. And we love shitting on each other. Usually we gang up on one guy. Usually every week or so, somebody gets ganged up on. And that's just part of the fun of being in that group. Comics are relentless and ruthless about nonsense. If you make one mistake, they're going to tell you about it.
Now, I want you to know, this is something that I've never talked about on the podcast. We've done over 300 of these. But
good. Tell me.
So the text chain for comedians, I've never talked about this. So because comedian groups, they have a text chain. Most of them do. Now, the text chain has to start somewhere. And then
you add
people. Now, at this point in time, when somebody's added, does it have to be a vote when somebody's added? How does it work?
No, you know what's so funny is ours got done because I think at the beginning of our text stream, me and Faheem Anwar and Brent Morin had a text, and it would be like I was just talking to those guys about that. You know, we were usually complaining. I was like, yo, you believe this shit? I just came back from it was just complaining. And he was like, I just was talking to, so-and-so about it. And these worlds kind of slowly, that's how we all created this big, massive group text. And of course, this is funny. One day I said, I go, here's how selfish and chaotic and f***ed up comics are. I go, I want us to have a guys' dinner. Everyone on this text stream. I go, we should be having dinners like we used to. Because the more successful you get, the less you get to see people. And I'll be honest, when you're young, you get to go to the diner at night after the shows and you're all there. But now people have kids and wives and families and they're traveling a lot more. And the more successful you get, the harder it is to kick it and go to that diner at 1 a.m. That's why Montreal is great, because this is camp. I'm at camp. It's incredible. Me and Andrew Schultz and those guys, they had shawarma and I had donuts at 4 a.m. Like I'm 14. Like what am I? I want to be on the toilet all afternoon. But anyway, so I said, we got to have a guy's dinner. We got to have a nice steak dinner. And everyone finally agreed after bitching about the date and the time. And I've got a show and I have to move. We finally got everybody to go. And I was like, I could dictate how this dinner is going to go. Who's going to be late? Who's going to complain? Who's going to leave early? And Theo, of course, Theo Vaughn, who I love. Theo left early. I knew he was going to leave because I love Theo. He's like, dude, I forgot something at the studio, man. I'm like, we didn't even get food. And he's like, I got to go. I knew he was going to go. He ordered food, and the moment he ordered it, the woman walked away, and he was like, man, it's taking so long. I was like, dude, you just ordered food. We just put in the order. So, that clique, that group of guys, we'll always have, whether or not we run into each other more, we always kind of have that. The text kind of keeps us, it's kind of sad, but it's wonderful that the text keeps us, together more, because you don't get to see people as much. The more you're doing, the less you see people.
Has anyone been deleted from the text?
No.
Has anyone been taken out of the circle?
No one's been pushed out, but new streams have started without somebody or without two people, and they don't know it.
They don't know it.
No, they don't know it. Well, they do now, I guess. No, they don't. No, it's just kind of like sometimes there's small pocket text, group text that jump up, but then I usually go to another aside if we need to discuss something very real. Usually it's about the person that's on the text. Usually we're talking shit about someone on the text, but we're all good friends. It's just that's the relationships that you go through of people complaining and bitching, and I'm at the store and this is happening, and is there any way that somebody knows who wants a spot at the Improv that I can't do? It's just like a little community thing. It's our what is it? What do the suburban moms use? What's that app? What's the it's like the neighborhood. There's like a neighborhood app or whatever that suburban moms are like, going out of town from July 14th. This is like our little neighborhood app for comics. It's like our little communal communication center to find out who's going to the club tonight or where they are, or they're out of town, or someone's having people over. So it's the best way to keep in touch, because that's the one thing that makes me sad about comedy. I just don't see my friends as much as I used to. So when I get an opportunity to come to Montreal, I'm like, yeah, I get to see so many people I don't get to see, especially New York guys that I never see anymore. You know, so that's one of those things I get happy to see people, because it's hard, you know? You just don't get to see people as much.
Everybody handles things differently, obviously, on the text chain, those people. Since you've been on the text chain, somebody like Theo Vaughn starts taking off.
Yeah.
How do you handle things watching how everybody reacts to one person's success? And where I was getting at was anybody deleted from the chain is that there's always somebody in the group that's like, man, it's not his time. I deserve to be in that place.
Sure. Yeah, no, none of these guys, that's funny you say that, because none of these guys, we all kind of like, I think everybody on that chain has had a pretty good amount of success. And so D'Elia, of course, is by far the most successful of my closest friends. But he's one of the most popular comedians out right now. You know, so like he's so big now in our little world that like Eminem texts him, you know, like it's like he did a music video with Eminem. It's like at some point it's weird to see your friends get very big. But it happens to like everybody in different ways. So you just kind of get used to it. But everyone in that is really supportive. And there's guys on the stream that, you know, that don't really have super successful careers, but we've all known each other for so long. You know, like when you've just been in the mud with people for so many years, it's hard to be bitter when you're actually friends. It's easy to be bitter about comics when you're young that you don't know. But I will say this, I've talked about this before, like on my podcast and on others. The community in LA right now is stronger than I've ever seen in my entire life. When I first moved to Los Angeles, nobody gave a fuck about you, and you didn't matter, and you needed to go away and get out of their hair, and nobody cared. Now the support for comics in our community, about like helping each other rise up, is a beautiful thing. And I talk to New York guys that are like, that's crazy what's going on out there, because you all lift each other up. You know, like Segura and Kreischer and Rogan and me and, you know, like a million more guys. Like we all are kind of trying to help each other. And Theo, we're all trying to like push each other up and rise up together. And I think a lot of the New York guys are like, man, that's crazy. You guys are doing that so well. Like it's something it's in the air. Maybe it's Joe. I'd probably pin it on Joe. Because when Rogan came back, he created this community again of like, it's not me against the world. It's like us against the world. So it's like, we should be doing this together. We should be doing shows and killing shows together and bringing all of our audiences together. And you obtain more from his audience and he gets some out of your audience, and people that don't know you know him. And I think that was the beginning for me of this new wave of what's happening in comedy in Los Angeles.
I think, you know, Joe is an amazing man. And, it's odd because we all have our journeys. And, my journey with Joe is I started in Boston with him.
Right.
And in
1924. That's right.
And when I used to see him killing on stage. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, I don't think I ever really rallied around him at that time. I don't think I was, somebody who said, identified that's the guy that he's going to do, this or that. I don't think when I was booking, I booked him even remotely as much as other people that probably he deserved it maybe more. I never had a relationship where it was like I talked to him and it was like a friendship thing. I didn't have like this, I wasn't his enemy, but I don't think I was as supportive of him as maybe some other people. And as my journey goes, and every year what I see what he does for this profession, it's like, to me, he's like the Lorne Michaels of the underground community of media and podcasting. Mm-hmm. And the community and the family that he's brought together and the careers that he's launched because of his support. I mean, there's no one like him in the world, and I have so much respect for him. I think what he's doing is incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that the influence that he has in what's happening out in the world and personal appearances and people selling out places.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can directly trace it to the genesis of whatever relationship he had with that person in the beginning. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I look, I give him a lot of credit, and I always have, and he's become a good friend. And what he does for me, and what he's done for me at both like literally and also behind the scenes, as far as giving me advice and direction, and kind of being like my big brother in this game. It's been, you know, I can't really articulate it well. I don't know how to thank him enough, and he wouldn't know how to take the thank you. Do you know what I mean? It was just, he does it because he really likes me, and we're friends, and he also believes in me, and he thinks I'm good. Like, he doesn't do it for any self-benefit. It's not for him. He doesn't do any of that shit for him. Almost nothing I see him do for other people has anything to do with him. It wouldn't benefit him. You know, me opening up for him in an arena in San Diego for 12,000 people or 15,000 people, it has nothing to do with him. He wants me to succeed. Just because that's enjoyable. He's like, that's going to be great because you deserve the success. I want to give you platforms.
yeah, there's certain comedians, just so you should know, that do big shows, or even shows at the Wilbur Theater in front of 1,100 people, and they have their opening act, and they stay in their dressing room.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like Joe is the kind of guy who walks out to see how you're doing in San Diego.
Oh, he watches. He watches everybody. Yeah, he stands right next to the stage. He'll stand right there and listen to you.
And he doesn't have to, but he does.
No, he does it because he loves comedy. I like that. That's like a dying breed too. You know, like I think, like, you know, I ran into Rath the other night. I went to go
Dave
see
Rath, a great manager.
He's awesome. I went to go see New Faces here, and I hadn't been to New Faces since I did New Faces. I hadn't gone to watch anybody, because usually when you're here, you're on a million shows.
And the New Faces, if it's not obvious, it's the actually here there's two New Faces. There's the young comedians who haven't been seen by the rest of the world, who are managed by people, and then there's another group of shows with people who aren't managed by people, unrepped and repped. Something, I know it's odd saying this because there's no way to say it where it comes out the right way, but I actually started New Faces here in Montreal, where I brought 18 people here about 25 years ago, including Chappelle and Tracy Morgan and Wanda Sykes. And
none of those people have become successful, so that's really crazy. You got a lot of trash out there.
And I got 5 development deals at the time. And I'll never forget, it was this beautiful moment where they let me do it because they didn't think anything was going to happen. But I really worked hard to try to get an audience in there. And we got like 250 people and got 5 development deals. And I think they were the only 5 that year. And then the Brain Trust at Just for Laughs flew out to LA, and they sat down with me, and it was this beautiful meeting, and we had a great time. They were so supportive. And at the end they said, you know, we'd like to make a request. I said, sure, what is that? They said, please don't ever do that again.
Please don't do that to us. Don't drown us like that.
But anyway, so anyway.
Oh yeah, so I went to New Faces, and I hadn't been since I was a New Face, because you're busy usually. I usually have 6 scheduled. And I had a gap between doing my solo show last night, so I was like, I'm gonna go over there, especially because there's a guy named Matty Ryan, who's out of Chicago, that I love, who opened for me when I shot my Showtime special, and he got New Faces, and I was like, I have to watch. I want to go watch him. So I went over there to watch, and when I ran into Rath, he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I want to go watch. And he was like, oh man, that's so good to still love comedy. I was like, yeah, I still love comedy. And, you know, to backtrack, it was just like, that's what I do. I still think about Joe. Like, Joe still loves comedy. Look, I'm not going to lie. I don't go to a lot of shows because you're doing so many shows. But I still do love comedy. I still do want to see people that I'm interested in. You know, I'm not going to watch everybody, but I will watch people that I think I found some interest in. And if I don't know you and if I catch you, you know, I'll watch and check it out. But, like, I still do I love comedy. And I think that when that dies, you're fucked. And I think Joe's the kind of guy that, like, still is in love with comedy. And I don't think it'll ever die for a guy like that. That's why he's so strong in what he does. And a lot of people, you've seen it. A lot of people kind of fall out of love with comedy, and it happens, and it changes their career and their trajectory, and their lives changes, and that's okay. But like I'm still in love with comedy. That's why I want to still go see fun. I mean, I did Ari Shaffir's Storyteller show last night, renamed Storytelling Show, and I was so excited to watch everybody do that show. Because I hadn't seen it in a long time. It's like there's two ways to look at these things. You're either here just to be here and to get whatever you need done to service just you, or you come here to really like soak it up and enjoy this shit and go watch people and go to the bar late and have fun and talk shit and meet people and joke around and eat late night meals. And you either are here to like really be in it, or you're here just for something self-serving. And I want to be in it. Like I want to go do it. I want to be, when they're like, will you come do these things for Just for Laughs and go do these interviews for them? And like, I'll do it. Fine. I'll go do it. You know what I mean? I'd rather do this and then go eat and go hang out somewhere. But like, if I'm here, I'm here. I'm here to be in it. Like you might as well. I still love comedy. That's all. Like I still love it. I think once you lose it, you're dead. So you got to quit, or like you got to move to Anchorage and fish.
All right. I want to go way, 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 way back.
Okay. Conception.
So take me back to where you grew up.
Mm-hmm.
What was the dynamic there economically in the family? What was the personal relationships you had with what went wrong, what went right? And then what was your first inspiration to getting into this crazy business?
So I grew up in Chicago, Illinois. My like I had touched on, my mom and my dad got divorced when I was like 1 or before I was 1. Because my dad liked to party, and my mom wanted to be a mom. And she was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't have kind of that chaotic lifestyle surrounding my son. So my parents split, and I grew up on the near north side of Chicago in an area called the Gold Coast, which is like affectionately known what would be as like, Soho in Manhattan. Like it's really, really nice. But my mother worked for a property management company that owned these apartment buildings. And we grew up in the apartment buildings. We lived in these apartments that their company managed. So I was in 3 high-rises when I was a kid. Like I was the only kid I ever knew that grew up in a high-rise. It was funny. It's like when we moved to the suburbs, people were like, you grew up in high-rises? I thought but it was what I knew. I thought that was kind of normal. So I lived in a really, 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 really high-end area of Chicago with my single mom for a while. And we weren't rich. It was just because my mother worked for this company.
How old were you when your dad left?
Not even 1.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe around 1. So my relationship with him it was very odd and skewed and made no sense. Like I really didn't know him. It was a lot of coming and going, and a lot of, hey, I'll try to come see you, and that never happened too. So that was a lot of like, I think that was a lot of, that f***ed me up a little bit as far as like getting promised stuff and then never receiving it, but always relying on your mother. That's why my relationship with her is so strong after all these years of like, I just always could rely on her. But I had to be so independent because of that's why I left and got into, that's why my mom was so supportive and comfortable with me going to California and getting into stand-up, my whole family, because I've always been that guy. I was like, I'll go do it. I'll go figure it out. I'll go get it done on my own. And then my mom met my stepdad, and we moved to the western suburbs of Chicago. And they had my little sister, and there's like an 8.5 year gap between us. So growing up out in the suburbs with her, like I had nothing to do with my sister because there was nothing in common, And then as you get older, you create a much better relationship. But, for the most part, I was a single kid with my mom. And then we moved to the suburbs, and our life changed. Like everything was different. Everything was dynamic. It was like we live in this really, like middle to upper middle class neighborhood. Great schools, like it was like it's like perfect. You know what I mean? It's what is it called? Tiny boxes. You know what I mean? What's that? Why can't I think of that? Stepford. Yeah, it's like Stepford. It was like that. It was like everything. The suburbs are perfect. Like they're weird. They're like everything is in order, and everyone's lawn is nice. And so that was my That was my, second half of my life in Chicago, was growing up on the
Now, was
suburbs.
your mom? I'm sorry, I
No, go
missed
ahead.
this. Was your mom in a relationship then with a new person, or she was alone?
No. Well, when we moved to the suburbs is when she got married to my stepdad.
Got it, okay.
Yeah. We lived in the city until they decided they wanted to have another kid.
Now, before that, though,
Yeah.
like, was it that kind of moment, like in movies where the kid walks into the room and there's a strange guy there? And
No, my mother was really good about whatever she honestly must have been so good at it, because I never really saw her date any guys until she met my stepdad, and then I saw him come around a little bit, but he was a really good dude. Like, I really liked him a lot. He was a guy's guy. That's why I liked him. Like, he was like, let's throw a ball. I'll teach you how to ride a bike. I'll tell you some things you're not supposed to know. Like, he was just kind of he was just a man's man. So I immediately liked him a lot. I thought he was a cool ass dude. And he liked everything I liked. Like, it was great because I loved basketball, and he wanted to play he loved playing basketball, and he would take me to the park and play basketball. It was like things like that were like, I thought he was like, the perfect next up. You know what I mean?
And your biological dad, what?
In and out of prison. So we wouldn't really the communication levels were always so skewed with him. Like, there was never a consistent moment of talking or seeing him. I would see him every once in a great while, reluctantly. My mother didn't really enjoy that. They didn't really like each other.
Where would you see him?
He would pick me up and we'd take a drive out to where he lived, and go spend time with that side of my family. And it was my memories of it are kind of foggy, just because it was always so chaotic and weird. It was always so strange. It was always very quick. I never spent significant amount of time with my father as a kid, ever. A day, maybe 2 days. And then I would go back to reality with my mom, who, always was like supportive of being like, you need to get to know your father. That's fine. But she did, she's not a big fan. Turns out she wasn't a fan of him. But, yeah, I remember. The funniest shit I remember, not funny, but like kind of tragic funny, is like he used to call when he went to prison again. He would call, and back in the day, you used to collect call from prison. Do you remember? Have you ever got a phone call from prison? Do you know?
Yes,
yeah.
I have.
Yeah, someone used to collect call, and they go, "You have a collect call from Cook County Jail from," and then you say your name, and it goes to accept, press 1, to deny, press 2, and hang up. And occasionally, my mother didn't want to accept the call. She's like, "I'm not, you're not." We're not paying for him to call you. Like, he needs to get his life together, and then when he gets out of jail, he can see you, type of shit. So because of that, he caught on to that. He would leave messages in the time when he was supposed to leave his name. You know what I mean? He was supposed to be like, hey, it's me, it's Dad, pick up, But instead, he'd be like, hey, what's up? I just want to say hi, and I just want to say I love you. I know I can't talk to you in a while, and then it would cut off at some point. It was funny to me. It was kind of tragic and very sad, but to me, I was like, that's so funny that he figured out that the calls were getting denied. You know what I mean? Because on their end, it says call not accepted. So I don't know if they know if it's somebody didn't answer or if somebody said no on the calling end. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of like, that was my window into this world of his growing, trying to grow up and become a clean man. And he's been sober for a long time now, but as a kid, that's all I really knew, that he was going to jail. We never talked about why. I would learn in my teen years that it was because of drugs, and couldn't stay out of trouble. But I didn't know. When I was a kid, I was like, why does he go there? It's like he made mistakes, I guess, or whatever. I was told he made a lot of mistakes. And when you make mistakes, you go to jail.
Hey everybody, it's Barry Katz, and I wanted to talk to you about Blueprint for Success. This is a community that I put together during the pandemic to help all artists of every walk of life in the entertainment business. No matter where you are in that part of this journey, it's designed to help you. There are podcasts with people that will inspire you, like Kevin Hart, Judd Apatow, Bill Burr, that you can't find anywhere else but on this program that I've interviewed, to times where we get to talk to executives in the business that you would never have access to tell you what you need to hear and to answer your questions, to all sorts of different videos and master classes designed to help you get to the promised land. That's what the Blueprint for Success is. Doesn't matter whether you want to be a stand-up comedian, a sketch performer, a podcaster, an actor, an actress, director, writer, social media person, whatever you want to be. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've had the honor and been humbled to represent people like Chappelle, Wanda Sykes, Louis C.K., Dane Cook, and probably over 20 other people who went from a studio apartment to being a multi-millionaire and a household name. And I want that for you, and I wanted to take the time with this program to be able to help you on your way there, to get there and to heighten and increase the trajectory of your career. Blueprint for Success is the way to go. I'm proud to be a part of this program, and I'd be proud to have you to be a part of it too.
So what was your first inspiration to get into this business?
Probably that. Probably all that fucked up shit. I always loved stand-up. I loved stand-up so much. I don't know why. Well, where did I first see it or hear it? I remember, well, this is kind of funny. I had a babysitter in Chicago. It's a lot of black, white, and Puerto Rican. I had a Puerto Rican babysitter who would let me watch like the most foul shit that like I definitely wasn't supposed to watch, you know? Like it was so if my mother, like I remember even The Exorcist, when The Exorcist was out and my mother didn't want me to watch that, it was like the first thing she let me see. You know what I mean? Like she didn't care. She was like, you need to see this stuff. And I think that was the first time with her family. I was maybe at her family's house. My babysitter was like her parents' house when she was taking care of me. And that was the first time I had seen stand-up. They had watched Lopez. I'd seen Lopez, and I'd seen
George Lopez.
Yeah, George Lopez, and I had seen, and then I'd seen Raw. I mean, I had
Eddie Murphy's
Raw. Wasn't definitely not allowed to watch Raw, but I watched it anyway with them. Everything I wanted to see, I could ask Maria. I could ask if I could see it with her, and she would never say no to literally anything. I mean, it's really bad, but it helped me. But I always had a knack for comedy when I was a kid, and I think watching those comics at such a young age, I was infatuated with how unique and odd it was. It was just so cool. I was like, it was so cool to make that many people laugh. I couldn't even tell you the exact moment, but I just remember being like 10 and being like, all I want to do is try to make people laugh. Like, that's all I want to do is try to make humans laugh. Because whatever was happening watching those specials, I can't describe it. I was like, I need to do that. I want to do that so fucking bad. And that was kind of like my jump into the world of loving it. And then my whole life, dude, that's all I ever talked about. At my mom and my stepdad's wedding, I told jokes. My uncle was like, "Who's this Henny Youngman's up here?" I wrote like a bit. I wrote like a set, and I told jokes at my mom and my stepdad's wedding. I sung a song and I told jokes. I was in a little tuxedo. They probably hated me, but yeah, I told like 3 or 4 jokes that I had written just for their wedding.
And when was your first time on stage? How did you muster up the courage? What was happening?
I just told you the wedding meant no. My first time on actual stage was in college. Oddly enough, like I really wanted to get into stand-up when I was in college. I left Chicago. I went to Arizona State because I was trying to get to California. In high school, the whole time I was like, I got to get to LA because I want to do stand-up. And I didn't want to go to New York because in my head I was like, it's too close to home. I want to get all the way out to LA. That's where you want to be, all the way out there. And in college, my freshman year, this like creative writing teacher introduced me to this woman who was like directing plays. And she was like, I really want you to be in one of these plays. We're not affiliated with the school, but like it's on campus. And she's like, I guess she had talked to my creative writing teacher and said, he was really smart, or he's talented. He's got something. And she was like, I want you to be in these plays. And I was like, I don't want to do that shit. I was like, I'm not doing that shit. I don't do plays. I don't wear costumes and read other people's words. And she was like, well, why don't you come by? And this sounds like an 80s movie. Of course, I come by, and there was a girl there that I was like, I do plays now. I was like, I guess I do plays. Because, you know, there was a chick that I was like, oh, my God, she's so hot. I would love to, get to know her. And of course, how do you get to know her? I was like, I do a play. So I did this stupid play, and then I did a bunch more, and that got me comfortable to actually try to go to a mic. Like that was the first. That was like
Did you
the
end
real
up going out
impetus.
with a girl?
We ended up sleeping together. Yeah, we didn't go. I mean, we didn't go out anywhere. We went home. I did end up. It did work. Yeah, it all worked out for the best for me. But I hated plays too. I didn't want to do plays. I was like, I begrudgingly would go. But she was like, "You're good. You're more talented than you think at being on stage." Because I knew I wanted to do stand up, but I was so afraid to do it in college. And then that's when I started doing open mics like once a week, maybe. I would try. Because you were so scared, man. You're 19 years, 20 years old, and I was like, all my shit was so bad. So you're like, I'm so scared. And back then, I was in Tempe. The Tempe Improv was literally the only club. There was nothing else. It was Tempe Improv, and there was like...
That was Dan Murr, the late Dan Murr,
who's now no longer with us. And that was it. Otherwise, there was like small little coffee shops and rooms all over the city, but like now there's like 5 clubs in Phoenix. Phoenix is like a booming comedy place. But back then, it wasn't like that. And back then, the Improv had one night a week that was a local mic night,
So what happens?
You go, you sign up, and you eat such shit that you never go back after doing it one time. I never went back ever. I did other rooms. I never went back to the Improv. I was so scared. The only time I went back to the Improv was to watch professionals.
You know what fascinates me about you? A lot of things fascinate me about you,
Yeah.
and I don't want to shock you, but you said something earlier. You go to the play.
Yeah.
You look across the room. There's a beautiful girl, the most beautiful girl in the room by 100 times. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you're a redheaded guy.
Yes.
Okay, so just go with me here.
Okay.
You're coming into an environment that you've never been in your life.
Yeah, never.
Okay. Not only are you at the lowest level professionally, but technically speaking, in the scheme of the redheaded guy, you're outmatched by a girl who's 100 times more beautiful than anybody there.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if I'm a betting man, I think that when you walked in there, you said, I'm going to sleep with that girl. Uh-huh. And you made it happen.
Yeah, I did.
Probably much quicker than anyone would think it would happen. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
Just stay with me here.
Right.
So you go to the Improv.
Yeah.
Again, you're in a venue where you're the lowest rung on the totem pole.
For sure.
The performance on stage is the metaphor of the woman at the play. Yet you are telling me you're kind of like uncomfortable there. You're kind of a little bit scared. Mm-hmm. You're nervous. And you go up and you bomb and you never go back. But yet with the girl, you know exactly what you're going to do. You know how to do it. You know if there's an objection, how you're going to handle it.
Right.
And even if you get rejected, you're going back.
Yeah.
You're going back until
Every
you
time.
sleep with that girl.
Yeah.
So why do you have the confidence personally at that level? But on the other side, you can't even go to an open mic and get one rejection. You're like, I'm not going back there again. I'll go to the other places. I'll sleep with some other girls.
Right. That's what it was.
What is that about?
I think that's a good window into the world of what stand-up is like, actually. It's like you have to keep wanting to try to sleep with that girl of stand-up. Like stand-up is a thing that's like you get rejected constantly so much by it over and over and over. And then when I say rejected, it's not like someone's like, no. It's just like you struggle with trying to make it happen so often and get yourself in a place where you're comfortable when you're young, when you're first starting out, that it really is kind of like a conquest. Like it's a conquest of like, I want to sleep with that girl, so I'm going to keep going. That's what stand-up as a whole is. The Improv, to me, going to that mic was just too intimidating. That was, for me, it was going there. It was like, I can't get done when I need to get done here. It's not going to work.
Okay, I'm sorry to keep going toe to toe with you.
Yeah.
But that girl for any guy would be intimidating.
Sure.
More intimidating than a an open mic night doing 5 minutes in front of people you don't know.
But I was blind. I'm blind to that stuff. I've always had an air of confidence that I probably never deserved. Like I've always been like, I can do that. I can get it done. Just like stand up. Without any semblance of humility, I knew I was going to be a stand up. I knew I was going to be a professional stand up. There was no doubt.
You were going to be successful.
You probably, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd lie if I told you no. If I'm trying to be like cute, I'd be like, no. Yeah, I thought I just was like, I'm gonna do very well. I knew I was gonna do very well in stand up, not only because I knew I was just gonna bust my fucking ass, but when I started in LA and I was surrounded by the people that were working with me around LA, I slowly started to feel that I felt that I was better than a lot of people around me. I was like, oh, I do better than more people around me, and that continued, and that continues, and that continues, and so you start to see your peers rise up, who are those who are just as good or better than you, and the other people start to fall off. It's kind of like, shaking for gold. It's like you start to see a lot of the sand fall away. You're like, oh, I'm stronger than these people on this show. And I started to feel like I knew most shows that I would go to, that I was open micing at, I was stronger than 90% of the people. There's one or two other people on the show who were as good or better than me. And that continues, and you keep working hard until you rise up. But yeah, I'd be a liar if I told you I didn't think I was going to be successful. I knew I had the drive, and I knew I had the ability. I just needed to cultivate it, and I needed to work on it, But I think most people could see that early on. You can see early on who's going to keep doing it and who's going to do well at it, and you can see who kind of people are halfway in, halfway out, and they're not, and they're really not that. They're really not. They don't really have that thing,
To me, one of the most exciting moments of stand-up is when you're seeing somebody a lot of nights who there's something there. Yeah. There's really something there. Either they have the great personality and the point of view,
right,
but they don't have the performance down.
Right.
Or they have the performance down, but they don't have the point of view. Mm-hmm. Or else they have incredible material, but literally they have nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing else there.
On stage.
Yeah.
And there's this amazing moment that happens sometimes when you're in your club where you're witnessing that person kill for the first time. Mm-hmm. Like something happens in that one performance where they put it all together and they have the best set of the night that night. Mm-hmm. And you're like, holy shit, I think they may have arrived.
Right.
And for you, when was that moment? Do you remember it?
It's funny because I remember when I got passed at the Comedy Store by Tommy when Tommy was still there, and I think my set to be passed was one of the strongest sets I've ever had in my life. My showcase set.
How much time did you get back then?
I think those showcases I think they were I want to say they were 8 minutes or 10 minutes. I think they were 10.
And in those showcases back then with Tommy, the manager of the Comedy Store, was there...
Maybe they were 5, by the way. Maybe
was it always a certain spot on a certain night on the show that was what everybody had the same opportunity?
Yeah, well, Friends and Family, which still exists, the open mic at the Comedy Store, they do the mic and they do a thing called Friends and Family, which is comics who are technically still open micers, but you've got kind of one leg up. You're getting development spots, so you become like Friends and Family.
That's not the potluck on Monday.
It's afterwards. Yeah, afterwards, it's now it's called employees or Friends and Families.
Yeah, I was just there on Monday, and they had it afterwards, and they were literally Fraser Smith was hosting, and then Don Barris, and there were 25 comics doing 8 minutes, starting at 10:30.
Yeah.
Or it might have been 11.
That open mic at that club is a testament to the strength of a comic. You really have to get through that because it's probably one of the hardest.
One of the hardest things, and I don't want you to lose your place here, is, as I saw, is there's this point in the night where in the second half of the show where it's around 11:30, a comic gets off, does his set, and then 27 people stand up and they walk out, and now the next guys or girls going on.
It's around the 11 o'clock spot.
And then they go on, and then 8 more people get up.
Mm-hmm.
And then at each time a person finishes, there's actually manners to a crowd, believe it or not. They don't get up in the middle of somebody's act.
No, they're good.
But by the time the 10th person or 12th or 13th person gets up, there's your hardcore group of maybe 21 people there in the crowd scattered around. And then by the time the last person goes on, there might be 7.
Yeah, sometimes if it's a lucky night, there's like 10, there's double digits. Yeah, but for the most part, that crux of like 11 between 11 and 11:30 is when things start to change in that club, and that's some of the toughest spots.
So your moment.
My moment was doing my audition development spot for
and
Tommy.
You crushed, and then you knew in your heart.
I just knew that I was uber prepared. I was overtly prepared to do that spot, to showcase. And like there wasn't a doubt in my fucking mind that I was going to get it. Like I was like, there's no way. If I just deliver what I've always been delivering on this set that I've got, there's no way that I'm not going to be a regular at this club. Like it's undeniable. Like I'd been working and working and working towards it so much that when I got on stage and I told my first joke, and it did really well, it was just like this weight off my shoulders, and the rest was in cruise control. Like I just knew, soon let me get the first laugh, and then I'll feel comfortable. And I just knew. And then the next day when they tell you you're gonna get passed, it was just this big relief. It was just like I had worked so hard to be at that club. And then I'll tell you, the most important moment is when you get your first 15-minute spot. Preparing for that is fucking hard. When people go do their first 15-minute spot in that room after you get passed, it's threatening because you're like, well, I'm in the club, but they could kick me out of the club. So it's just like high school going to college, right? Like a small fish in a big pond as a freshman. Then as a senior, you're a big fish in a small pond. Then you go to college and it's like freshman year, you're a little bitch again. That's exactly what it felt like. It's like you're the big dog of the micers and you get passed. But then once you get in, it's like, dude, you're at the bottom. Now you have to almost start all over again in a new world, which is, I think that's why you either really do well in this game or you disappear, because it's a testament to strength of like your character. Can you get through that? Because I got to tell you, when you get passed into that club and you have to start in those shittiest spots, they're really hard. They're really hard. There's not a lot of people there. They're not really laughing. You're at the end of the night. The vibe is not great. And like, I feel like that could easily scare you away and be like, fuck this, I don't want to do that. I have to go all the way up again. I just climbed up this hill, What's the guy who pushed the fucking rock up the hill? Sisyphus. Yeah, it's the same thing. That's like a comic's plight. It's like every time you push the rock at the top of the hill, there's a brand new hill. That's every time. So you just got to enjoy pushing the rock.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6 degrees of separation.
6 degrees of separation. I'm going to mention some names.
Do it.
I want you to tell me what comes to your mind.
Okay.
Adam Devine.
I love Adam Devine. What comes to mind? The night at the Improv that he introduced me to Blake Anderson, who is a great comedic actor who is on his Workaholic show, and he introduced me that night, and he goes, Blake is a really funny, talented comic. Wait till you see him on this show that we're going to do. And that show ended up being Workaholics. That was the night that Comedy Central went forward with them, I guess. But I remember that. I could see that etched out of my brain like it was yesterday. We were sitting in the Improv bar, and he introduced me to this curly-haired, goofy dude, and who would later become a buddy. But he was like, you're going to love this guy. Wait till you see what he does on this TV show that we're going to do. I was like, oh, that's cool. You guys doing a TV show? What's this little TV show? And it became one of Comedy Central's, biggest shows in the last, 15, 20 years, whatever. So Adam Devine, that's what I think about. I love that dude. I'm so happy for his success. He's a guy that deserved it, who wasn't a piece of shit, who I could still call and be friends with, so he's a good egg.
James Franco.
What's the first thing that comes to my mind with Franco is sitting in Sofia Coppola's house and him writing or pitching this crazy indie movie to me, and being like, we were pitching and pitching and pitching, and then we kept piling ideas on the story, and then he was like, so what do you think? I was like, I think that's really good. He goes, you should write it. And I was like, I didn't think that I was going to write this. I thought you wanted me to come for ideas. And he was like, no, I want you to write this fucking thing. And it was right before they did The Disaster Artist, which is a movie that Franco did, The Room, and they threw me in there, but I think I have literally 0 lines. It's very funny. I think I'm verbally cut out of the whole thing, but my big face is in it. But Franco, that's the first thing I think of, is sitting there and Franco basically pitching me a movie to write, and I had no intention on writing the fucking movie. I was like, I don't want to write that movie. But yeah, he's an eclectic dude, man. He's a funny, cool, eclectic dude. I like that guy.
Seth MacFarlane.
First thing that comes to mind is seeing him with 3 of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life at Dominic's, at the old restaurant Dominic's, used to be behind the hospital. I used to love that place, and I saw him at the bar, and he had three unbelievably beautiful girls, and I just remember sitting there at the bar staring at that dude, and I was like, Family Guy, man. Family Guy gets you all that, huh? It was great. That dude's brilliant, man. I think he's incredible. I think he created like the funniest family cartoon other than The Simpsons that I've ever seen. It's remarkable. My wife loves Family Guy so much that when I'm on the road, she watches it and she just lets all the episodes loop, and so she's seen every episode like 1,000 times because it's like comforting humor to her.
My sons have watched every single episode.
Like 1,000 times. I mean, it used to be on in my house every time I would come home because she would just put it on in the background. She likes humor comfort. Some people put on, like, people have TV background noise. She likes Family Guy in the background all the time.
It's interesting, at the Playhouse, there was an actor in the corner studying his lines, looking over at you saying, fuck, that guy got the girl.
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't have Family Guy.
No, that's true. That is true. That is absolutely true.
You don't need Family Guy to get the girl.
No, that's right. No, I just remember Seth with these beautiful women, and I was like, man, that's fucking incredible. That dude's killing it. I wanted to go just shake his hand. I go, hey, man, great. Enjoy the pasta.
Melissa Leo.
Melissa Leo is the strong matriarch of the show that we did. What's my first thought of Melissa Leo? She pulled up to the set of I'm Dying Up Here, the Showtime show that we did together, in a camper, what do they call it? Like a trailer, a camper. And she had, to my knowledge, she wanted her own little camper on set. I said in one of those like trailers, and she had brought her own to like live and stay in, and it said everything I needed to know about what kind of person she was. Like, she wasn't demanding in the fact she was like, I want my Will Smith trailer. It was about her wanting the comforts of home because she works a lot. And I started to understand actors a little bit more because of that show. I had I had done sitcoms, but that show was a lot of dramatic actors, people that have done a lot of like what I call acting. It's like, damn, they're really in it. Because when you do comedy, you're like, oh, you're doing you. But that I saw a new side of dramatic actors, and Melissa, she's eclectic as she's wonderful.
Ashton Kutcher.
First thing I think of is Ashton and I got into an argument one time. I was talking shit about college football, and I grew up in Chicago, and you either love Notre Dame or you hate Notre Dame, and I hated Notre Dame as a kid. And I was talking shit to one of the interns about Notre Dame, and Ashton poked his head up like out of the corner and was like, watch what you say about Notre Dame. I was like, you went to Iowa. Why do you care? He was like, because I support the Irish. I'm like, dude, I'm Irish. I look like Ireland. Look at my face. I have the map of Ireland on my face. I go, I support the Irish too. I go, I hate their football team. That's all. That's the first thing I remember. Ashton and I get into a fight when we barely knew each other. I had just started working at that studio, and I think he just wanted to big man me a little bit because he was like, you're low here. And also, I used to steal a lot from Ashton. That's another thing I remember, is I was so broke, and Ashton would get all this swag, like shoe companies and clothing and jeans, and they had a closet. His assistant had a closet filled with shit. And, I think he was cool. He didn't care if people took it, but I took a lot of that shit. I was like, I'm getting new jeans, new shoes. Every week when something came in, I was like, let me see it before he gets to it. Because he didn't need that. He didn't need that shit. I was poor, He had 5 houses, this guy. So, yeah, I stole from him often.
Your first acting break in show business.
That's kind of that. I mean, like, even though Punk'd was unscripted, that was my first like on camera thing. But my first break thing that got me quit my day job was an MSN show, hosting an MSN update show called Big on the Web. It was called a Surf Report as well. It changed, but it was an online show about like what's going on in pop culture on the internet. That was the first job I ever got on physically on camera, and literally right after that is when I met Jason. But I was doing it from a little tiny studio in Hollywood, off Colfax, and I was shooting this like bullshit my MSN show. And the beauty of this MSN show was the numbers we would get sometimes. Like they would tell us like 3.5 million people saw it, and I'd be like, wow, that's crazy, right? But I also learned it was because MSN was the homepage for all Microsoft computers. So a lot of old people don't know how to change their fucking homepage. So they would open up their internet browser and it'd be my dumb face. So it's almost like they had to watch me. So we forced the numbers, but it was great, man. But that was my first thing. And then my first sitcom was this show called Mixology that I did on ABC. But I had done The Office. I did an episode of The Office that Allison Jones put me in. And then a ton of little small things. But this Mixology is my first actual sitcom where I was like a regular. Larry Charles directed that pilot. Who was the fucking man? If people don't know Larry Charles, you should look him up. He's a genius. He did Borat. He also has another show out he's phenomenal. He knew comedy. Like he was the first guy I ever worked with that got comedy. Where like any other directors that I had ever like met, it was like, I don't know, you're hesitant. But with him, he was like, F that, do that. I was like, what if I say this? He's like, do that shit. He was the coolest, man. He was the first dude to be like, say that shit. We can cut it. Say that dumb shit. Say that bad joke. We can cut it. He was so big on trying. He was like, try it. And then I will say this. The one other thing is I almost had a pilot go. Not go. I shot a pilot. It was a CBS. I think it was Ben Silverman's production company, but it was like a hybrid. It was like half scripted. And this was insane. Listen to this cast. This is crazy. It was at a restaurant way north in the valley of Los Angeles, and it was real customers, but we were scripted people. Like it was almost like The Office taking place at a restaurant, because that behind the scenes camera thing. It was me, Tiffany Haddish, Asif Ali, Nicole Payon, Stephen Garino,
great,
Brad Morris. I mean, it was like hilarious, phenomenal people. Tony Baker. I mean, looking back on it, I remember because, I'd known Tiffany Haddish for a long time, and her and I were having so much fun on that fucking show. And now looking back on it, I was like, man, almost everybody on that show is doing extremely well. It was really weird because back then, and everyone was a nobody. Everyone was a nobody. They probably got us for $100 a day. Like whatever it was, they were like, we can scrounge together these great improvers and sketch and stand-ups and see what kind of magic unfolds. God damn, it was funny. It was so funny to me. I can't believe. I know why CBS didn't want to do it, but that was my first like shot at a thing that was original, I guess. That CBS show. I don't even remember what it was called. Right This Way, something like that.
Seth Rogen.
Seth is a dynamic artist who's good at too many things. I'll say that. He's good at too many things. He's incredible. He's great acting. He's a great writer. He's a great producer. He's just got a great mind. I've worked with them a few times, Seth and Evan. They're exactly what they're supposed to be, if no other words I could describe. They're exactly what they're supposed to be. Creators, producers, cultivators of talent. They're phenomenal, man. Those guys fucking hit so many home runs. It's creepy. You know what I mean? They're like the years of baseball when everybody was on steroids. That's what I feel like Seth and Evan are. It's like everything they fucking hit is like, that's out of the park, man. Like every time they take the swing, you're like, there's no way that's not going to go out. They're phenomenal.
Open a vein.
Open a vein. Is that a line? That's a line from something. What is that from? Is that from I'm Dying Up Here? What is that from? Is it? Open a vein.
I just remember this line in the show where...
I know. What is it?
It just, in other words, it was like, have some balls, get up there, reveal yourself.
Yes, but what is the rest of it? It was like open a vein and something.
That's what I can't remember, but it just stuck with me.
Open a vein, that show. That show opened my veins for sure. That brought me a new dynamic in the acting world that I've never experienced before. It brought me a lot of darkness too. I'm not gonna lie. It was hard playing an asshole and a loser. That was tough. I took that shit home for sure. There are many nights when you play a loser for 12 hours a day, who gets beat up. It's hard to not take that shit home. I don't give a f who you are. You take that home.
But in the show, what's odd about it is, and this is what's the two trains coming in different directions. You're like, you're like a big shot there.
Yeah, at the club.
But you're, a big fish in a small pond.
That's right, yeah.
But you are an asshole, and you're a loser in the sense that guys keep coming in, and they've done like the Tonight Show, and they keep passing you, and you're like there, but you're like the king there.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Those guys still exist, by the way. There's guys that are like king at the club that like they can't. There's no ascension for them because they get in their own way. That was my character on that show. That was his biggest gripe, is he got in his own way. He constantly would get in his own way. And a lot of us get in our own way. So
I like to say, don't complicate winning.
Yeah, don't. Why? Just let it happen. Don't get in your own way. So many people get in their own way. And that's hard. That's hard to play somebody that gets in their own way because you get frustrated. It comes to life sometimes,
Jim Carrey.
James Carrey. The first thing that comes to mind is him saying nothing matters to that press conference. He was just like, nothing matters. Who cares? The universe is here and gone, and we're all just floating around. Him mocking the business is very funny to me. Jim was my boss. Jim was a mentor. Jim was like my comedic hero. Being able to work with my literal comedic hero was one of the craziest things in the world. And to know that he thought I was funny, I could die a pretty happy man. There's a couple of moments in comedy that have really made me like go, holy fucking shit. Jim Carrey telling me that I'm very funny. Making Julia Louis-Dreyfus laugh in the room, making her crack. That was one of the most, I'll never, ever forget that day in my life. That was one of the happiest days of my fucking life. And making Larry David break. Making Larry David break was like, I could have fucking gotten into a car accident and died and been like, make sure they say, on my way out, the paramedic's like, any last words? I'm like, let them know I made Larry David break. Because it was fucking, it brought me so much joy. So yeah, those three moments, Jim kind of acknowledging my abilities, making Julia Dreyfus crack, and making Larry David crack were like three moments of my comedy career where I was like, fuck me, man. I wish I could sit in those things for the rest of my life, like sit in that feeling, whatever that was,
Steve Carell.
God, the first thing that comes to mind is like literally when you just said his name for some reason, was Little Miss Sunshine. Because Steve Carell, though, is to me exactly what Ricky Gervais had in mind for David Brent, for Michael Scott. Like when I think about Steve Carell, I'm like, that guy's literally who Ricky Gervais thought when he wrote that character, in my opinion. Like he's a literal perfect. I mean, Ricky was phenomenal at it, but it was like, yeah, Steve's so goddamn good. He's so talented that it's unfortunate we don't get even more of him, because I think he's
Dan in real life,
comedy god. Yeah, Dan in real life. Yes. I loved him in that shit. I always like to see comics do things like that, like a little bit off, a little bit off from what they normally do. Will Ferrell did a movie called Everything Must Go. Did you ever see that?
No.
It was phenomenal. It was sad. He was like an alcoholic who got a divorce, who lived on his lawn. It was really sad and funny, man. I like those movies that most people are like, it was okay. I'm like,
Adam Sandler, Punch Drunk Love. Amazing.
Phenomenal. I think he's,
Ben Stiller, Permanent Midnight.
So good.
Richard Lewis, what was the movie where he was an alcoholic? Incredible.
Yeah.
Don Rickles, Casino.
One of the best roles of all time. I love it when you're just off a little bit as a comic from what we're used to. I want to say my favorite line in Casino, but I won't say it because it has the F word in it. Not fuck. When he hits him with the phone. He's like, you told my friend to go fuck himself? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite scene.
My favorite is in this day and age, a Jew brought.
Yeah. That's right. He goes, Nikki, is he fucking the Jew? Is he fucking the Jew's wife? That's what it is. Is he fucking the Jew's wife? You got to be careful out there. Yeah. That's one of the best movies of all time. That movie's chock with shit.
Last one.
Yeah.
The late Brody Stevens.
Oh, man. What comes to mind first is like the hallways of the Comedy Store and him him always having something. He would often not try to be funny, but it was very funny. Just because his cadence and his nature was so fucking beautiful, and he knew I went to Arizona State. When we first met, he liked me because he knew I was from Chicago, and I loved Brody before I knew him, and I was a fan. And when he met, I did that thing where you're clearly trying to like get in good with him, and I was like, I'm from Chicago, I'm a Cubs fan, and I went to Arizona State, because I knew that he was a diehard Cubs fan, loved Chicago Cubs, and the organization shows their love for him big time. And I told him Arizona State, and he was so interested in me then. I was like, you know what I mean? Like, before then, you're just a comedian that maybe he's seen you do well. But he used to yell at me in the hallway. He'd be like, Santino, Arizona State. And it would make me laugh because it was across the hall. It was so unnecessary to mention our college, you know, or he would mention a Chicago Cubs ball player. Like, he would yell out a name. You know, he's like, he'd be like Santino, 23, Sandberg. And he would just name like a random stat or something for no reason. Or there was a reason. I don't know. Whatever was in Brody's head. This is a mean joke, but it's very much my kind of humor. I called Adam Egget.
Adam Egget is the person who now manages
the
comedy store.
Yeah. And I called Egget, and I was in Mammoth Mountain skiing, snowboarding, and I called Adam Egget, and I was like, man, this is so fucked up. I can't believe this shit. And we were both getting emotional, and it didn't feel real. And there was like a long pause. And then I remember saying, so many other people could have died and I wouldn't have cared. But I was so bummed about Brody. And he laughed. We laughed a little bit because I was like, God, so many other comics could have killed themselves and I would have been okay with it. But not that guy. I love that guy. Yeah, because it was just so fucked up and shocking. My best memory of that dude will be going into the main room late at night when I've had a couple of soda pops and maybe a half a joint with someone outside, and watching him play the drums on a chair at like 1 a.m. Nothing. I don't think anything will ever take those fun memories away. Like that was some of the most fun nights of my life. I would just sit there and watch him and laugh, play the drums on a fucking chair for like 10 minutes and not do a joke. But it was.
Let's pretend, let's suspend disbelief, as you say, or whatever, however you say it. And I can bring him back for one question. And the question I would ask him is, could the comedy community have saved you? What would he say?
I don't know. Brody would have probably said something about being positive, which was the irony of that dude. It's like he always talked about like positive. They weren't positive enough, or because it was like he was always fighting this battle against people's negativity, or so he thought. I don't think he knew how much people loved that guy. People loved him. I know it's hard because the game is so fucking hard, but he was beyond beloved. It was like, I don't know. He'll be etched into our community forever as this, this symbol of heartbreak, because he was so goddamn fun and funny. And if I had one question to ask the dude, I would have said, what did you really want to have happen in comedy? That's what I would have said. What do you really want? Because I don't think any of us really know. And sometimes when we really get lost, that's when negativity creeps in like that. But what did you really want? Because he was so fucking, he was loved. He did well. More is usually the answer, but I wish I knew what he really wanted. Like, what is it that you really wanted? Because from the outside, a lot of people would think he's fucking doing all the things that you want to do. And I think that happens a lot in our business. So I would have said, what did you really want? And I'll tell you, I would really want him to stick around. That's what I would have wanted. Would have been cooler. So.
Me too. Your proudest moment in show business?
Probably going through my mom's iPhone, I went through my mom's phone for something, and I saw that she had my album, my first album that I did, on her iTunes. And I was like, why do you have my first comedy album on your iTunes? Like, download it on your iTunes. And she was like, I listen to it all the time in the car. She's like, I love it. And then she started naming me bits. And I was like, I don't know. I knew my parents loved and supported me. And like, I knew my parents didn't think I'm funny. But it's a different relationship with your parents. They're like, we're proud of you. We love you. We're happy. But you don't know if they like your comedy. But to know that my mom liked my comedy was like, I think that was it. That was my most proud moment. To know that she listened to my shit. I was like, wow, you listen to my shit? And she told me one of my jokes. I was like, you fucking listen to my jokes? Yeah. It was wild.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was it. That was my proudest moment, I think.
Your biggest disappointment in show business and how it fueled you to get to the next level.
God, there's been a lot of disappointments. My biggest disappointment in show business, that's hard. I think I just have a lot of hits that sucked. There's a lot of hits that sucked. That like took me down a peg, so to speak. You know? Like when you test for a show or a movie and it's your 5th time and you don't get it.
5 times testing for the same...
5 times reading for somebody.
For the same project, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That shit fucking hurts. That shit is like, what do you want from me? That's what you want to say. You want to go in there, you know, like Morgan Freeman in that scene in Shawshank, you know, and he's like, just sign your paper, sonny. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. He's so tired of playing the game. That's what you feel like at the end. You're like, what the fuck do you sign your fucking paper? What do you want? I don't care. I'm locked up already. Like, fucking kill me already. I've had so many of those. I mean, I don't. I know I'm not doing it justice. It's hard to answer just one that was my biggest disappointment. But I think, not my biggest, but one of my first letdowns was like, after I did Punk'd, I did think, it was my first project, and I thought, I can't wait to see what happens from this. And it didn't really get much attention, and it kind of waned away. And I think that was my first wake-up call to being like, oh, this happens often. A lot of things go on the air and nothing comes from them. So strap in. So I got used to that shit of like, that's just part of the fucking game. You know, that, yeah. I think I've had a lot of those little things come and go, and up and down. And, you know, you just get used to that shit. And that, I think that all fuels I think all of that compiled is like what makes you either good or disappear.
Last question. What advice do you have for the young person who's growing up in a maybe not the most desirable situation in the world? A lot of transition, a lot of changes, a lot of things going on that aren't in their control. And how do you figure out a way to navigate and get to the point where you are and have the kind of amazing career that you're having?
You know, my mother says things that annoy me sometimes. She annoys the shit out of me when, like, because my mom, like I said, she's not cold, but she's just firm. And she always says, like, it's going to be fine. And I hate that phrase. I hate it's going to be fine. I hate it. It's an annoying phrase. But I would grow to learn why she said it all the time. Because she said it's going to be fine whenever I express, like, discontent or upset or anger or I'm scared or I'm afraid I'm not going to pay rent or like all these things, because she knew I was strong enough as a person to hear it and to let it move me to try harder and do better. Like, it's going to be fine, not saying like, don't worry about it. It's saying like, it will be fine. You just have to get through it. Like, it will be, but you can't stop. Like, you have to keep going. Not saying like, don't worry about anything. It's saying this is exactly what is supposed to happen. And it will be fine. But you have to get there. Because you just can't give up. And I think that was everything for me. It was like, well, I gotta get through this. It's going to be fine, but I have to get through it. Whatever negativity you're like, there's no way I'll ever live through this shit. You will. And it will be fine. But you just have to get through it. And I think that's like with everything in life. It's like you just have to get through it sometimes. Sometimes you have to fucking just get through the thing to push through to get to the next thing. And I think the most important thing that I've learned from all of that stuff that I would say to people is like, there's no one else that can make you be who you are going to become other than you. There's no one else is going to help you get to where you really need to go other than you finding your way there. Like, you have to get yourself there. People can help you in your career, in your whatever career you're choosing. Like, people can support you, but you have to find out how to get there on your own. That's the only way to be successful. Is be like, what is it to me? What do I need to get to make me feel like I'm moving in these right directions and achieving my personal goals? It's all about you. You're the only one that's going to get you there. People can help, but you have to fucking get it there. Yeah.
Andrew Santino, this was worth the wait, my friend.
Yeah, it was fun.
You are amazing.
Thank you, brother. I'm glad I came up here. This is wonderful.
You went really deep.
I did. We went all the way down, and I didn't think that was going to happen. When I saw two other men in here, I thought it was just going to be me and you.
Well, you thought we were going to go deep in another way.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be without clothes. I told you that. I did get a little excited. I put on a little bit of spritz. I was like, maybe he'll smell me. I'll smell nice. But you got these guys in here. It's like, I can't get naked in front of these guys. But it was awesome, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Really, you're incredible.
Thank you.